Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is going to be an exciting stage 5 here at Vuelta a Catalunya. I told you guys yesterday on the Butterfly Effect, when you look at the time splits with first and second on general classification, Nairo Quintana and Almeida from UAE Team Emirates, they're tied on time. So as I spoke about it yesterday on the Butterfly Effect, it's the stage placings that will start to add up, which will decide who's race leader, or time bonuses, of course, can come into play. So immediately when you look at today's stage, you see time bonuses at around 30 kilometers and around 12 kilometers to go near the finish of the stage. So you know there could be some drama on today's stage. But when the race comes on with 100 kilometers to go, we see a breakaway rider up there with Barade from Kern Pharma, Martin from Escatel Escati, and Joel Nicolas from Caja Royal. Now with those three riders at 3.5 minutes, you know while sitting on the couch, there's a good chance that group can get brought back if UAE Team Emirates really want to drive this break back. But now let's rewind the tape a little bit and go back to the finish of yesterday's stage, because I talked about first and second. What I didn't bring up, top 10 is 35 seconds separated from each other. And there's many places throughout top 10 that have guys on the same time. So those riders are all going to fight for time bonuses and stage placings too. So all of the top 10 want to move up. Much like when I was fighting with Dan Martin way back in the day with Radio Shack, that predicament is in the mind of all these riders throughout this stage too. So anything's a possibility with the break of 3 being up there at only 3.5 minute lead. Right away, UAE Team Emirates, after the video comes on at about 90 kilometers to go, they start drilling on the front, and all of a sudden we see the time gap start dropping to the front group of 3 up the road. And then X gets on the front, and the time gap up to the front leaders drops all the way down to 30 seconds, and then it's a stalemate and everybody sits up. From this point on, the stage is getting pretty boring. I'm actually doing some homework, kind of preparing myself for something to give you guys to talk about on tomorrow's stage, thinking that today's stage won't have too much drama other than the sprint at the finish. But I was a little bit off. Now, when we start getting to 40 kilometers to go, we're only 10 kilometers before the first time sprint. The gap there is at about a minute, and I'm wondering, are we going to see one of the teams get on the front and bring back these 3 chasers? Because 10 kilometers, 1 minute is very doable. But then we see the peloton sits up, everyone starts taking a nature break, and that time gap from 1 minute to 1:15 starts going up. So then I start relaxing. Now I got a 7-year-old at home, and we're watching Power Rangers on the TV screen as I'm watching the computer in front of me. And the stage has been so boring from that point all the way up to the first sprint that I really have stopped paying attention, much like I did when I was a professional bike racer on stages like this. You would fall asleep back there for sure. Really, you didn't have to pay me to race my bike, but these slow stages, I definitely needed to get paid to go through these first parts of the stage. But things are going to wake up, because at 25 kilometers to go, when I was still peeking up, watching what my 7-year-olds got on TV, and I'm going through my second generation, because I have a 20-year-old boy, Garrett, that you guys all know that does the editing here on the Butterfly Effect. So I went through the Power Rangers then, and now I'm going through it for a second iteration here with my 7-year-old. And so I've seen all of them. But when I'm watching bike racing and nothing has happened for 70 kilometers, you're trying to get your mind focused on anything. Now, just under 25 kilometers to go, though, things start getting excited again, and all of a sudden we start seeing the time gap to the 3 breakaway leaders start dropping fast, and with 20 kilometers to go, that gap and everything is brought back together as the 3 breakaway companions are brought back to the peloton. Now things start getting exciting. About 2 kilometers out from the sprint line is when we see UAE Team Emirates all over the front driving it, but nowhere in the picture do we see Almeida. 3 UAE Team Emirates at the front and no Almeida. I had the hardest time trying to find where Almeida was throughout this last 2 kilometers for the first sprint. I wasn't certain if he was going to do an appearance. X will take over about a kilometer later after UAE Team Emirates lost power. And then Archaic Samson, Nairo Quintana, he's got 2 riders in front of him. I assume it's Hofstetter sitting directly in front of Nairo Quintana. there to do a fantastic lead out for the Colombian rider. Now, when the stage started for UAE Team Emirates, they lost Sebastian Milano, who dropped out of today's stage. And so remember, that's a big hit when we're talking about leading out Almeida for time bonuses. They don't have them with UAE Team Emirates. And you lose the experience of Sebastian Milano. If you remember last year during the Giro d'Italia, Milano was spectacular on some of those sprint lead-out stages, and he's a man that absolutely knows how to handle these situations, but he's gone. So now you got GC guys for UAE Team Emirates with Costa, Soler, and George Bennett. They're all GC guys trying to help Almeida win time bonuses here, and they're a little bit dysfunctional. They look good up there, but where's Almeida the whole time? Now, Archaic Samson, I told you there on the front, but just briefly, because you know X is putting on a show. The small pro team is back on the front with 500 meters to go, and with 200 meters to go, it's Tobias Johannesson who wants some time bonus space between him and the riders behind him. He's going full on for the sprint, and he's got a gap. Now behind, Almeida made his way up to the front group, and all of a sudden the sprint is started. Johannesson is doing a fantastic job and will come through for first on the line. It's a 5-6 way bike toss behind for second and third time bonuses, and it'll be Rui Costa who will get second place bonuses. Third will go to his teammate Almeida. Now, a lot of you guys are looking at this and you're thinking, Costa, why didn't you just sit up and give Almeida that second place time bonus? The problem is, honestly, when I'm watching it, I'm not certain Costa even knew Almeida had showed up there to do the sprint. So Costa was just trying to get maximum points. He's looking over to the left quite a bit, and you see Nairo Quintana, Hofstetter there, but I don't know if he could ever see that Almeida was right behind him and throwing his bike to the line. So Costa will get second, Almeida will get third, 1 second time bonus. Now Joao Almeida is race leader here at Volta a Catalunya with only a 1 second advantage. So when you look at that sprint, don't give too much shame there on Costa, but I'm going to give him a little bit here coming up, because once we get under 10 kilometers to go after a few more tacks have started, it's up there. It's UAE Team Emirates, Rui Costa throwing in a tack. This does not make any sense. At this point in time, this is still a very, very dangerous point on stage 5. Remember, UAE Team Emirates, Almeida just took the race lead back on the time sprint bonuses, and now if there's any kind of gap at all in the peloton at the finish, or if Almeida should have a bike problem, he's gonna lose Rui Costa, who's up there throwing in attacks for no reason. At this point in time, UAE Team Emirates just want to keep it together. Follow dangerous attacks and bring it back if you can. I said follow, but more bring the peloton back. You want a field sprint at this point in time, unless, of course, you get a gift where Almeida's up the road in a group, then drill it. But if you don't have that, you want a field sprint, 100% all the time. And instead, not only does Rui Costa throw in an attack, but back there, it's Soler throwing in an attack. Marc Soler is trying to go up the road with 6 kilometers to go in the race, and this makes absolutely no sense. He's followed by Nairo Quintana, so of course it gets shut down. But Soler, and instead of calling you a knucklehead, I just should call this the Solerism, because he's doing stuff and tactics that are always completely wrong at different times during the bike race, and leaving your number 1 rider on the team, Almeida. Remember, stages 1, 2, 3, and 4, I'm sure UAE Team Emirates did not make Almeida the team leader. But after yesterday's stage, he is the team leader. And I have to wonder in the team meeting this morning if they talked about a plan that if the time bonuses are taken by Almeida and he becomes race leader, we change the plans. Because they might have in the team bus said, okay, at the finish, you guys are free to attack and see if you can win the stage or something, and then Almeida can do his own thing. But once Almeida has the 1 second time bonus, now the plan has to be everybody stays with Almeida completely together. He is your race leader. It is the number 1 rule on the butterfly effect. You do not leave your race leader isolated. Once he has that 1 second, they have to stay with him. Bike changes, flats, crashes, anything can happen. Splits in the peloton. gaps to Nairo Quintana, who could possibly jump away, have to be closed by UAE Team Emirates. So you cannot spend your energy attacking up the road under 10 kilometers to go when the race is at its peak speeds. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, when we start getting in the finish, there's some crazy furniture and there's some zigzags with 2 kilometers to go. There's a fast descent and the peloton's doing 65 kilometers an hour back there. We're talking about 36, 37 miles an hour. They're flying, getting close to 40 miles an hour, dropping down the descent with a left turn. Coming out of that, it's bike exchange on the front. Now with 1.2 kilometers to go, there's a roundabout and the peloton will split. We'll see Van Wilder from Quick-Step on the right side of the roundabout. As he's exiting the roundabout, he's going to look over his right shoulder. That's a mistake because his bike's going left, and all of the peloton that went to the left side of the roundabout are now coming right. He's going to fade left. The peloton's going to come right. Of course, he's going to overlap, and Van Wilder is going to crash hard right here with just over 1 kilometer to go. Now with 1K to go, it's the last bike exchange rider on the front. He'll pull off. Archaic Samson will jump on the front. Now with 800 to 700 meters to go, it's Quick-Step's Ethan Vernon and Soto from Euskaltel Euskadi, and we're going to see Vernon. He's going to push the Euskaltel Euskadi rider hard to the left. That's going to open up a gap, and he's going to slot onto the Archaic Samson wheel. But Euskaltel Euskadi rider Soto, he's not done. He's going to push back hard on Ethan Vernon, but it won't be enough. And as they come out with about 600 meters to go, it's Archaic Samson, followed by Ethan Vernon, and then followed by the Euskaltel Euskadi rider Soto. They've got another crazy furniture obstacle coming up with about 500 meters to go. It's a roundabout. When they come out with 400 meters to go, it's Archaic Samson still on the front. Ethan Vernon from Quick-Step sitting third wheel. And we see fifth wheel, sixth wheel back there. It's Guillaume Boivin back there, the Canadian rider, and he will throw in his attack with about 200 meters to go. He jumps hard from the left to the right side of the road, and it's Ethan Vernon Quick-Step that starts to follow at 175 meters to go. Ethan Vernon will start his sprint in the back of the picture behind the AG2R rider back there. It's Phil Bauerhaus. He's a little bit trapped, but he's going to find his way out by 100 meters to go. He is accelerating fast. Vernon is passing Guillaume Boivin. Phil Bauerhaus is doing amazing acceleration along the right side barricade there and will come by the AG2R rider. As Ethan Vernon passes Guillaume Boivin, he looks like he's got a great shot at winning today's stage 5. It's a cluster back there. The view from the cameras, it's difficult to tell what was going on when I was sitting on the couch. But by 50 meters to go, Ethan Vernon looks like he's got this wrapped up. He starts celebrating from behind. Taking second will be Phil Bauerhaus, who was blazing through the field back there. Third will go to Dorian from AG2R. The Canadian national champion, Israel Premier Tech, will take 4. Guillaume Boivin. That will round out our top 4 places here. Now we're talking about, remember I said yesterday, you got to pay attention to all the stage placings too, because at 25th spot thereabouts, that's going to be Almeida, and then about 5-6 guys behind him is Nairo Quintana. Now, with that 1 second time bonuses, the placings aren't so important, but it's only 1 second, so placings still have to be looked at as important throughout this Vuelta a Catalunya, because Nairo Quintana still has opportunities to steal time bonuses all the way up to the last stage here at Vuelta a Catalunya. We have great battles still to come here in Spain, so make sure you guys like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next edition of The Butterfly Effect.